Hey, and welcome to What Future? I'm your host, Joshua Topolsky, and today I'm very excited because we have, frankly, an unusual guest for the show, at least thus far, a bona fide songwriter, musician, producer who I am very into at the moment, a woman named Penelope Scott. I bought on vinyl. I bought a t-shirt of hers. I mean, I became a complete fanboy over this music. And what I didn't know, and what you wouldn't know, of course, if you listened to this or you heard it on Spotify, is she became well known. And the only reason that these records exist at all, and that she's touring, and that you know she's got millions of plays on these different services and stuff, is because she had songs that got popular on TikTok. And that's a weird path of, like, I know that it exists in lots of different ways for lots of different people, but like when you hear about who the TikTok influencers are, actually this is very related to some of the stuff that Taylor and I were talking about last week. When you hear about like the influencer thing, it's usually like these like girls who do dances or like funny, like comedians doing things or like weird stunt videos or whatever. And it turns out there's like actually a really active world of music happening there. And like the music's just super interesting and unusually produced and unusually written, and combines lots of different genres that I feel like shouldn't go together, but weirdly do. So we got Penelope to come on the podcast and talk about hopefully some of this stuff and maybe some other things. And to be honest, as a huge fanboy of her music and songwriting, I'm just sort of curious about when the album's going to drop, sort of selfishly. So here is singer, songwriter, producer, Penelope Scott. Penelope, thank you for being here, first off. This is very exciting. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
Which sounds like, frankly, like a weird thing to say to anybody. But I was telling the story just, before you got on, that I discovered your music in a sort of weird roundabout way, which, well, it's probably not that roundabout, but one of your songs was on a random Spotify playlist that I was listening to. And I heard it and I was like, what is this? At first I was like, what is this? Because frankly, what you make is so distinct that my brain like sort of short circuited. And I was like, maybe I hate this. I might hate this, right? At first. And then I took a second because I have a very immediately critical reaction to many things in life. And so I was like, let me let this sink in. And I was like, whoa, no, wait, actually, this is really good. And so I liked it as one does on Spotify. And then I forgot all about that the song existed. It was Feel Better, by the way, was the name of the song.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you've heard of it. It's one that you did.
Yeah.
Anyhow, then I came back to it many months later because I remembered that it existed. I went and I listened to, I think, like most of, or maybe everything that I could find of yours on the internet. And it's really, really good and interesting and weird. And I used to produce music. So, to me, it's like the songs are really interesting and weird and good, but also the production is very like unusual and surprising and exciting to listen to. Let me ask you, do you produce your own stuff? Is it all you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I do produce all my own music so far. Now I'm starting to like actually be willing to accept help from other people. But yes, the Junkyard 2 was like completely voice memo material. So there was no production. And then Public Void, I produced it.
I mean, Junkyard 2, it's interesting you say voice memos because because I'm extremely old and near death, it has a quality of like a 4-track or like, like Elliott Smith, like demos or whatever, like in the sense that the distance between like the stuff that you did on that record and what I think of as classic, like demo sounding or indie sounding stuff. Is it actually like you recorded into voice memos?
Yeah, most of them were recorded in the voice memo app on my iPhone. Yeah. Basically what happened is that I had been playing music for a while and I would record them sometimes just to have them and to be able to listen to them later and hear the songs. And then when a couple songs started to become popular online, I just went back for the best of those and put them all together and released that.
Oh, I see. Like a splice of all those different ones. I think the production on your stuff is so weird and interesting. And like, you and I probably could just have a really nerdy conversation about this. But first off, like, for me, like you like 10 years ago, like I was like obsessed with like chiptune shit, like, or maybe even earlier than that. It's funny because like when I hear it now, I'm usually like, ugh, God, no, like it's so overused and so played out and like everybody's just like doing the same thing. And yet like when I hear it, like whatever the kind of chip tuney stuff in your music that I've heard, I'm like, oh God, that sounds so fresh and interesting and original. I have to say, like, it's very impressive. But the way you blend it with it's such an unexpected way of mixing sounds together. By the way, this is like totally, we don't have to talk about this, but I have all these questions. Like okay. I want to know like how you actually, like, what are you producing in? Like, what are you like tracking?
Pro Tools.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I learned Pro Tools.
Wow.
I had a little bit of help, but a lot of it was just me beating my head against the wall. And it's gnarly, but it's fun. And then...
No, it's crazy. Pro Tools, nobody even talks about Pro Tools anymore. It's like for such a long time, it was the de facto like pro studio situation. And then everybody just kind of like shifted to weird shit. Like, and everybody was like, oh, I just use Logic or whatever because I'm only doing it on a laptop.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating that anybody still uses Pro Tools, in my opinion. I'm just like blown away by it.
It's wild. Pro Tools is like the badass one that I'm like trying to get more proficient at. And then the backtracks for a bunch of the songs in Public Void was Limbs, which I don't know how adults say it, but we always said Limbs, and it's just like LMMS version 1.2.1.
What is Limbs?
It's a free software, and we downloaded it. This is kind of fun. So I was in a music and technology class just pre-pandemic. And then everything went on Zoom. And so half the kids aren't on campus and half the kids are. So they have to come up with a way to still be teaching the software when half the kids don't have access to the software. So they had us download new, free, worse software that everyone could use instead of using the university's software.
Well, it makes sense, kind of.
Yeah. And it's like, you can't do a lot of the stuff you can do with other things because it's like a free version of it. So you just go through and one by one click where the notes are supposed to be and just compose and just map them on from scratch. And you have your little drum loop and you have your little automation track. And that's what like 5 of the songs from Public Void was originally made in. But then I took that backtrack and put it into Pro Tools. So
I've downloaded so many random weird like open source like audio apps. So I totally understand this. But anyhow, this is fascinating. We can talk about this for a long time, but when I knew that you were going to come on the show, I started to do some like, non-stalker, but like deep research, at least as deep as I could get, because I'm also very lazy.
Yeah.
And so like what I did not realize, and sort of didn't realize at first, and I listened to a bunch of your stuff and it did not occur to me at all. Like you've got a lot of plays on Spotify and like you've got a bunch of records there, albums, whatever, EPs, whatever people call them these days. And nothing seemed unusual about that to me. And then like, as I kind of dug into it, like you became known for your music, like through what, TikTok? Mm-hmm. Is that where this started?
Yeah, I would say that's where it started.
And it seems like fairly organically, like you were just putting music on there. Like, I mean, I'm curious, like if it was your goal or not for people to like pay attention to and share that stuff widely, but like you were just like putting ideas on TikTok. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I had a band camp for a while where I was just storing the music projects. And then I would say, I don't even know when this happened. Probably like 2019, I download TikTok and I'm like, these are fun. I like these videos. And then I start seeing my friends post and I'm like, I should post some videos. What am I good at? Well, I'm good at dicking around in my dorm room and I'm also good at playing music. So I'll combine those two things. And then when the music videos started doing well, I had to like real quick take down all the other ones.
the stuff that like did not like match the quality.
Yeah, the stuff that was just like my idiot friends like cartwheeling down the hall. I had to be like, maybe we don't broadcast this anymore. See,
what you're saying is like there could have been another version of this where you got really popular for cartwheeling down a hall or something.
Yeah, there definitely was another version which would have been interesting. But no, the music thing ended up being the thing and I went with it.
I mean, what's the first thing that you posted that felt like it took on something, beyond like sort of your like friends' reach or whatever?
It was Born to Run and it was Sweet Hibiscus Tea. And I don't remember which got traction first, but both of them got popular towards the end of the school year. So it would have been like, August or May. No, that's not right. That's not right at all. I'm sorry. This is pandemic memory, so I'm totally blurring all the timeline. But yeah, basically towards the end of the year.
Is that 2020 or 2019?
God, I don't even know. Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say Public Void you released in 2020. So, right? I could be wrong about that, but you're like, I'm not sure.
It's truly anybody's guess.
It's okay. It's been a fucked up couple of years. I think we're all confused about what's been happening. But let's just say from in the last couple of years, you've been doing a lot of this. But like, what was interesting to me is, and I did not even take into account at all, is that the kind of core, the source of this is TikTok. I mean, maybe there's other places that I don't know about, like you mentioned Bandcamp, but like on TikTok, as I kind of delved into your stuff there, and then like the community, like, not only do these songs sort of take on a life of their own, which, I mean, I'm kind of curious, like, there's all these different versions of your songs, like they're sped up or they're slowed down or they're like weirdly remixed or whatever.
Yeah.
What is that like? Like, what's the experience of just having that stuff kind of spit back at you in a different form?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. There's two aspects to this, right? There's like the audio aspect where it's like, it's always surreal to see your own content reappear on someone else's account in any way. And like, especially if you're on YouTube and it's like, you know, Feel Better for 4 hours, looped reverb added, like Rat, but you're in the bathroom at a party. It's just, that is interesting. It's just like, oh.
Do those that exist? Is that a thing?
I don't know if Rat, but you're in the bathroom of a party specifically exists, but yes, that genre of spin-offs exists.
Right. It's like this thing a lot, but slightly tweaked in some weird way.
Yeah. Well, the other aspect of it is just the fact that the kind of music I was making in like the 2019 to 2022, like this whole little range, is influenced by stuff I'm seeing online. So of course, my algorithm of what I'm shown online is going to sometimes include stuff that is made with my own songs. And that gets very Infinity Mirror, where it's like you're watching content and it throws you your own song, reverbed, slowed down. And it's just like bizarre.
Is that like, I mean, what do you do with that? Like, I'm curious, like, there's the whole like content game, right? Where it's like, I don't know if you're listed as being like the sound or whatever, but is that good for you if you like it? So do you have to kind of like listen to it and like it? Or do you like just quickly move past it? What's the right move there for you?
I would say there's really no right move. Because, you know, the kind of money that you get for one little clip of your song used in a video streamed once is just like, it's not really, it's not like I would be generating revenue more or less by like watching my own videos.
Right. You're not just sitting there all day listening to that on repeat.
And even if you did, I mean, that gets very like snake eating its own tail. That's just not a territory. But also, I don't want to say like I never want to see content like this, because maybe I do want to hear other musicians. And how do I tell the app that that's me and that's why I don't want to see it?
Right.
Yeah.
You would think maybe at some point that they would be able to like give artists some control, like, hey, that's me, like a that's me control or something. I mean, I don't know how much TikTok is thinking about it, but you know, they have other problems, I'm sure. The other thing that happens is that you're in like conversation with like the people who are listening to and reusing your music in a way that I find, and listen, again, I'm very old, but I find interesting and unusual and perhaps daunting. Like, I watched a handful of videos of yours. One, you're responding to people who are using your music in a way that I think, I don't want to say like you didn't like, but like definitely using it in a way that, you know, elicited a response from you.
Yeah.
And then people are like kind of like questioning like your lyrics and stuff, and you're responding to them directly. Like, does that feel like a necessary evil? Like if you're going to be doing this stuff on TikTok?
I guess so. I mean, so I haven't been like super involved in TikTok in like, oh man, probably like the last year. Like I really came on the scene, got really invested, found some support, which is great. But then it got to a point like when I was starting to think about putting Hazards out, I think was the time period where I'm like getting in arguments about discourse that I just know nothing about. And that was the point where I was like, I'm out of here, man. I'm not an expert on any of these topics. There's no reason I would have meaningful insights here.
I saw you responding to like people questioning like the lyrics of A Lot of True Crime, which is, you know, you talk about Ted Bundy being white or whatever. And people are like, I guess taking issue with like, wasn't even sure like what the issue was, like, because like I think Ted Bundy's whiteness is like pretty important in like the world of like what Ted Bundy did, but it is an unusual thing to be kind of like questioned in such a infinitesimal way about the work. Like, was it just like an unsustainable sort of conversation to have with people?
Okay, well, first of all, yes, it was unsustainable for me. I think there are some people who are willing to have that be the work that they do and they find meaning in it, but that is just not, I don't enjoy getting involved in like arguments online. I like a good argument, to be clear. Like, I think it's fun to like hash out the details of these scenarios and like, you know, what am I saying with this song? Like, what does it really mean?
Right.
But it's just not feasible to like, I don't know. The thing that was interesting to me about that situation, though, the like lot of true crime situation, is that people take, I shouldn't even say this, but
no, say it.
It was beginning to happen that people were taking my art and the art of other people that I was like kind of keeping an eye on at face value. So if you're writing a song and you say, I listen to a lot of true crime, I do whatever these things are, you have people who are taking that the way you would take a primary source, because the academic integrity of social media is like very up in the air. We have no way to cite a lot of these things meaningfully. Like, I did a paper recently where I was citing a lot of online content, and it's like, oh, like the institutions that have to do with knowledge have not caught up to how we legitimize any of this. And so you have these weird situations where it's like you're saying something in a song and people are treating it like you're saying that as a statement. And it's like, well, no, because part of what's cool about songs is that they don't have to be from your specific intellectual or experiential perspective. You know what I mean? So it's like, why am I defending a character?
Right. A song could be a story, right? Like it often is,
yeah.
Right? That you're telling. I mean, it's interesting. You're sort of talking about, in some way, context collapse, which is huge. Like, I think like you talking to people about like them calling out that you're saying Ted Bundy's white and there's some issue with that or something, feels like a contextual collapse in some way, where it's like, if you take the song in its totality, to your point, as a story that you're telling, you would understand it better in that context, but you don't have that,
yeah.
in the format of TikTok. Like, there's no like, I don't know, Cliff's Notes or whatever for what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I guess it is a lack of context. I guess for me, I found myself arguing in favor of the point that I was trying to make. And I was trying to make a point. It's not that that wasn't true. Like, I did have the points that I set out to explore. And this is hard too, because when you're reading the comments, it comes at you like a monolith. But what's actually happening is, of course, a wide variety of perspectives, some of which have nothing to do with each other. And so it's hard to discern, but like in hindsight, it's like there were people who were saying like, I don't like your tone in this song because you sound like bitchy. And then there were some people saying like, I don't like this tone in your song. It's unrelated to the rest of this stuff. And then there's a significant chunk of people who are like, I don't like that you are disrespecting the intelligence of serial killers that I idolize. And it's like, so these are three extremely different points that I like.
Wow. That is a wide range.
Yeah, it's a wide range. And it's like, I should specify, I don't think that most of the people who were like, what do you mean? Ted Bundy's a genius. Like, they thought that the point I was making is like, he sucks because he murders. And they were coming back with like, you can be smart and murder.
No, my God, no. I mean, yes, but
yeah, what was actually happening was a totally different argument.
No, but like, is that a group of people who are like, you need to respect Ted Bundy? Because like, I don't think that opinion is super valid.
No.
Like,
so this is actually much more interesting, because this is the misunderstanding, right? We think there are people who are like, you need to respect Ted Bundy. But what's actually happening is that those are people who are upset that you would question the mechanisms by which we categorize certain people as smart. One of the criticisms being, why are you categorizing this person as smart if what they're proficient at is murdering girls? And that's the real conversation. It's like, is it
the real conversation?
For me, yes. For me, absolutely.
First off, that's super interesting, and like a level of discourse that on this particular topic that I have not engaged with, which is like, honestly kind of surprising, because I've been pretty online for most of my adult life. But like, what's really interesting a layer on top of all this is like, this is just people who are like nitpicking your art, basically, right? Literally like, the everyone's a critic thing is on full display in this situation where there is a subset of people who can find like pretty much any lyric problematic for them for a different reason, which is, seems daunting. Like, I don't know that artists at any other period in the world had to experience such a specific taking apart or picking apart of their art, right? Or of their craft. Like, that seems deranged.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that is part of why I had to kind of take a step back, because as you can tell, the topics that I'm interested in on this level, I can like totally rant about. I enjoy this like, well, why do you want them to be smart? It's because you care about smartness. And that's what we're actually talking about. Like, let's get into it. Let's get academic with it. Let's get weird. But like, at the end of the day, it's like, what I should have said was, this is a story and a song, and I don't understand why you're trying to drag me into like a debate about the truth of something that is a work of fiction,
Right.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry, and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So, buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So, how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic. oracle.com/strategic.
No need to debate the issue. Blinds.com's President's Day sale can save you up to 50% on new premium window treatments. Finally, there's a better way to give your home the presidential treatment. With Blinds.com, you'll never deal with pushy salespeople campaigning in your home or spend hours at overwhelming showrooms. Shop 100% online with upfront pricing, free virtual consultations, free samples, and free shipping. From natural wood shutters to motorized shades and more, get unlimited premium custom window treatments installed for one low cost. Do it yourself or elect to have a pro handle the installation. Our free design experts are ready to help you make the perfect selection. Blinds.com has you and your windows covered with our 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you're not happy, we'll make it right. Now that's presidential treatment. Shop Blinds.com's President's Day sale happening now for up to 50% off, plus premium doorbusters. Save up to 50% at Blinds.com. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Your cat can't join a credit union, but you can. Credit unions aren't exclusive bougie clubs. They're financial institutions that work for your local community. Visit tryacreditunion.com to find a credit union near you.
37,025, 1. These are the 3 numbers to remember to get the visibility and control you need to make the right business decisions instantly. 37,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down expenses. 1. Because your business is one of a kind, so you get a customized solution for all of your KPIs in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need to grow, all in one place. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist, designed to give you consistently excellent performance, absolutely free, at netsuite.com/stereo. That's netsuite.com/stereo to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/stereo.
I mean, I think the level that you're on in the argument of this conversation about like why somebody wants somebody to be represented as smart or not smart based on like some quality that they have, which is, by the way, super fucking out there. Like, I mean, most people will not entertain such a conversation, but certainly online, there is a deep pool of people who want to talk about that kind of stuff. I mean, it's an interesting argument.
Yeah.
But like, can you have that argument at scale on TikTok? You know what I mean? Like, is that the environment?
Well, you know, maybe for somebody, as it turns out, not for me. Because I enjoy these topics, but it's just not a good format for them, I don't think.
You have a song called Rat, which you mentioned, which I now own the shirt, the Rat shirt, because I was like, that's a pretty good design and I need more black shirts. And I love supporting artists. It's a good shirt, by the way. It's like a good fit, like high quality.
Thank you. Good.
But that song is like a lot about Elon Musk, from what I can tell. I'm not an expert. Actually, I am kind of an expert on that topic. I mean, the song is a lot about Elon Musk and people like Elon Musk and also sort of like people who like Elon Musk. And you are highly fucking argumentative in that. Like, it's not a tame opinion. You're not like, oh, I have a kind of middle of the road take on Elon Musk. Like, talk about Rat for a second. Talk about the song. Yeah. And also for people who haven't heard it, maybe explain the concept of it.
Yeah. So let's see. What to say about Rat. I wrote Rat pretty late in the game with regard to the rest of the songs on Public Void. Feel Better was old, and I spruced it up a little to put it with the others. But most of the others I had been working on kind of the summer before I released the whole album. Rat was one of those ones where you start typing into the Notes app and you're like, that kind of goes together. Actually, this is all tied to the same idea now that I think about it. And then you have a song. And I threw it together. I didn't spend a ton of time making it be totally perfect. Like I often like to nitpick with my songs and with my production. And in this one I didn't. And I tacked it onto the end of the album because I was like, this is not going to be to most people's taste. This is a weird one that I've made. I will hide it at the end where all the bad songs go, and then nobody will hear it.
Yeah, this is classic.
Yeah.
What was the VH1 show where they would like document some hit song or whatever? And on every one of those, there was either one of two takes on the song that became the huge hit, which was either I heard this and I thought it was complete shit, or I heard this and I knew it was going to be a hit. When you're so close to it, you can't really tell which way it's going to break, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so you stick it at the end of the record.
Yeah, I stick it at the end of the record, and I'm like, I will also say, like, I was surprised on tour. I thought that a lot of the sentiments I had were very West Coast, because I have a lot of friends from Silicon Valley adjacent, and then I have a lot of friends from, like, Seattle, Amazon territory adjacent. And, like, so this is something we talk about a lot, is, like, why is it fucking like, why always... You think things are cool and you want there to be robots and they're always mean and I don't understand.
You're like, they're robots.
And I was
we
like,
made the robots and now they're killing us.
Like,
and that sucks. Like,
that's what it's about. It's about loss of faith. It's about, I like had stars in my eyes and I thought all these things were so cool and all these people were my heroes. And you grow up and you're like, fuck, I didn't want that to happen.
So wait a second. You grew up in like around Silicon Valley or near Silicon Valley. Is that correct?
Within driving distance. Yeah.
So when you were growing up, and this is fascinating to me because I grew up in Pittsburgh, which is where nothing happens for the most part, except the Steelers. And I don't like sports, so it's a problem. But when you were like growing up there, like people like Steve Jobs and these other people who were sort of like the like leaders of sort of technology culture, kids there or whatever were like, these people are cool. Was that like a thing?
I mean, yeah, at least around me. And also this might have to do with the age group that is the first age group to kind of like join the learning curve of iPhones and like smartphones.
Right.
But
yeah,
I mean, because people forget that all these things are so into your psychology as a child too. Like it's technology. It's not just about like, and then the country did this and then the country did that. It's like your fond memories of being loved and being excited about things. Is there a phone in them? What was it like? Like these things are so like deep to your core memories.
Right.
So yeah, and I would say that like I don't know. Yes, a lot of love for technology. And I was so surprised when I played shows to find that kids in places that were not Seattle specifically or Silicon Valley specifically knew all the words too and were just as feisty. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting.
I think there's something universal about the idea that those people are going to take us places we haven't gone before, and that there is something to cheer. I mean, I do want to unpack Rat a little bit more, but like talking about Elon Musk, he has been a topic on this show for several episodes, I can tell you, because it's like, here's a guy who a few years ago, I would have been like, let me ask him the most interesting question I can think of because he'll have the most interesting answer. And like, I, as well as anybody else, was like, this guy's really fucking interesting and smart. And now I'm like, whoa, this person is a piece of shit who sucks. Like, that's really weird. So I think I understand it probably from a different perspective, but like, I can't imagine what it was like growing up around it, because like, it's so easy to be influenced by that when you're younger, right? Like,
yeah.
To have it surround you and to be influenced by it.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I mean, I guess I will just say, like, that's part of why Rat is the way that it is. I think that there's a lot of talks about, like, I don't know, Elon Musk specifically, but like the Elon Musk type that are like, you know, I have the moral high ground and this is what he's doing wrong. Or like, you know, actually I was his, like, I like worked for his company and whatever. And this is like my personal Intel experience. Like, I wanted Rat not to be that. I didn't want it to be like, these are my well thought out criticisms of how you're choosing to run your company. I wanted it to be like, you hurt my feelings. I liked you and you made me sad, you know?
Right.
It's a breakup almost.
It's like literally you say like, you broke my heart, right? Or whatever. Like that you're saying like, I thought you were going to be this great thing. And it turns out like you're sort of trash and you're bad for humanity. So was that a revelation for you at some point? Like, was that a thing that happened in your life?
I think it happens over the course of years in most people's lives. I think it's very normal to have at least a few good dramatic breaks in your worldview between the ages of like 10 and 21. And in our case, it's going to have to do with technology.
Where your world is shattered.
Yeah, and it's like part of it, you know?
Right.
I wouldn't say that there was like a specific instance. It's not like I was like standing in the street in San Jose watching Teslas like fight. Like, no, like just
just a single tear streaming down your face as you're like, I thought this was going to be a better car or something, and now I'm disappointed.
No, I just think that it's, you know, a subtle thing. More subtle, more long term.
Yeah, but I think it speaks to like the whole world that we occupy right now, right? Like, I think it became very popular. I feel like you can find it in lots of different places, but it is definitely something that you see on TikTok, on other social networks, ironically.
It's not ironic at all. It's all connected.
No, but it's like the disillusionment with like technology and where it was going to take us and who was going to lead it. I feel like, God, that's like so universal now. I mean, I think you were ahead of the curve to some degree on the severity of how bad the disappointment was going to be, right? Like, yeah. I mean, that song you did like 2 years ago or something.
Yeah, I did do it 2 years ago. And I think an important part of it, like this, for me, this is the key difference. Why can't you have these complex, nuanced discussions about fact in the same medium where you're doing the art? Because the song isn't saying, it's not prescriptive. It's not like this is what we should do. The song is, ouch, it's sad. I feel bad and I still want to go to space, but I don't want it to be nasty. Like, it's like, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for people to get in touch with that feeling first before all this stuff about like, where do we go? What do we do? How do we make it better? Who's to blame? It's important to just take a second and be like, I am never going to be somebody who doesn't think that this tech stuff is cool. I'm never getting out of that. I'm always going to be impressed. I'm always going to love these advancements, and it's going to be bittersweet. Yeah.
Right. You're sort of talking about this lack of space for this sort of art or the emotion of it to breathe. Like, I mean, it's funny because I know you did like a Genius video, and Genius is a really good example of this, where literally line by line, people will go like, well, let me explain what this thing means. And I think, and I'm not arguing that any art like needs to exist like this, but I think art in some way, music in some way, in previous generations where there wasn't constant content and discourse produced about an individual piece of art, you could have a personal take on it that was not informed by or reflected by some other person's like piece of discourse about it. And now, I mean, this is sort of like what I thought was so interesting about the TikTok stuff that I saw from you. It was literally like a line from a song had to be discussed because someone didn't get it. And it wasn't like they didn't get it personally and they had to think about it. It was like they didn't get it. And now their lack of getting it or understanding it has become a topic of conversation that the artists themselves must respond to, which feels like, I don't know, like could be a creativity prison in some way, you know?
Yeah. I think it interrupts the process of writing music. Yeah. If you're not careful. I mean, it's not like it's a total barrier, but it has to be navigated one way or another. Yeah.
But you're like kind of not online very much, like from what I can tell.
Yeah, I'm really not.
Yeah, no, I mean, I started following you on a bunch of different things. And frankly, it's like even hard to like find, like, I'm like, is this her account? Like, I don't know. You know, yeah. It's sort of vague. Have you basically disengaged from like that conversation?
I have not been on TikTok in a really long time. I'm still on Instagram quite a bit. I don't post a lot, but I'm looking at stuff a lot.
Oh, you're lurking.
Yeah,
so you're
I'm lurking.
Like a creep on Instagram. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, I totally a lurker on Instagram. And I will like look through interactions with my content. But I also, I mean, I have a other fake Instagram for sure that I'll just go through and use. Like it's not the public one, but I'm engaged all the time.
Right. A Finstagram, I believe is what they're calling it these days.
Yes.
But TikTok, like, was there some specific moment with TikTok where you're like, no, I can't do this?
I think I stuck it out for a few waves of trolls, but one wave of trolls got to a point where I was like, this is just stupid. I'm choosing actively to open my phone every day and allow not even the opinions, but just like the words, the loose, unmitigated words of strangers to affect the degree to which I can make this content, right. Being the art, not the videos, to be clear, but like, it's like, it became a point where instead of being like, no, it's my duty to look at everything and like take all these criticisms to heart, I hit a point where I was like, I am choosing to be less proficient at the thing that I now do. I should stop making that choice. I should close my phone and go outside.
Yeah, but that's kind of fucking crazy when you think about it, because it's like, you had this platform, you were using this platform in a way that was like, you could make an argument, it's super fucking positive that you were able to put music on it. As far as I know, like you didn't have like a huge record deal or something. You weren't like a famous person previously. You're like a human being on TikTok putting music on it, and that it struck a chord, no pun intended, though I do apologize for saying that. It struck some chord with people, and then it like became a thing. And then immediately, or not immediately, but pretty shortly thereafter, that environment became so upsetting or toxic for you. I mean, I don't want to use the word toxic, like it gets overused, but like it became a not good environment from what I'm hearing, and you basically disengage with it, which seems like a real failure of the platform in some way. Right? Like, yeah. Or maybe it's a failure of humanity. I don't know. I mean, it depends. If you think about what TikTok wants, like as its own entity, well, not the people, but the TikTok, I feel like what it wants is growth. It wants there to be this constant new content and this constant new material. And I got to a point where it's like, well, maybe that's not a service that I wish to engage with anymore right now. I mean, if I'm not going to be this rapid overturn stuff, if I'm not going to constantly be like pushing the button, creating drama for good or for evil, and if I'm not really a social media person and I'm instead a music person who is, for the time being, using this platform because it is fun, then when it stops being fun, when it stops being productive, it got to be like a little bit, what am I doing here? Right.
So, yeah. I don't know if that's a failure. That might just be the design.
Well, no, but it's fascinating. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I guess you and I are probably like 20 years apart in age. And like, I feel like that's a realization that to me feels like it's going to sound maybe rude, I don't know, like an old person realization where I feel the same way. Like I spent like a lot of my career, I mean, in a very different way, but like building a kind of like conversation on these like platforms where, I mean, Twitter's a good example of all the shit that's going on Twitter right now. It's like, I spent like a lot of my career building this like conversation with people. And now I'm like, yeah, like that doesn't feel like healthy or good or productive for me personally. And so I'm sort of like, I want to step back from it. But like, you're a person who presumably was raised on this. Like, I mean, like you said, like a phone was a part of every, sort of early memory or sort of important memory when you were younger. So like, it's weird that both of us would arrive at such a thing. I'm not saying it's the same experience, but it does say something, I think, about the failings of this stuff. Like this particular thing about you not being on TikTok and not engaging with that stuff, I was not planning on talking about because I kind of didn't perceive it. Because when you're not there, you're not there, right? Yeah. It's not like you put up a sign and you're like, oh, I'm no longer on TikTok.
Yeah.
But this is the other thing I want to talk to you about, which is like, you haven't put out a lot of new music recently, as far as I know. So what's the next thing? Like, where do you go from here, basically?
Well, okay, where to start with all of that? Let's see.
It's a lot.
First of all, real quick, I will just say, I stalked you back a little bit just insofar as I listened to the other episodes. And I think it's really interesting that the other people that you've interviewed, some of them are like kind of going through the same thing, but they're going through it with Twitter. And it's like, for me to watch from the sidelines, I never really got into Twitter. It was a little early for me and then a little late for me, and it just never hit. So to watch people be so dismayed at like the state of Twitter right now is really fascinating as someone who has no personal stake in it, one way or the other, really.
Oh my God, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just so lucky. Like, I can't even, it's the worst, shittiest social network that sucked ass from the beginning. And like, to have any allegiance to it. No, I mean, it's like truly like, was never good. And I'm so jealous of anybody who's like, yeah, that's not for me. That's so, anyhow, kudos to you.
It's funky. And I don't know, all these things, all these apps or whatever, it's like, yeah, it's super fun. It's great to be on it. But the part that makes it good is that it's social. It's the other people. It's not that the computer has like the juice in there that you want. It's like actually the fact that there's somebody.
Right.
Which for me made it easier to kind of get off the internet for a while. Anyway, so the next question of what am I doing now?
Yeah. You're not going to go back to TikTok, right? Like, you're not like, I'm back on.
I don't know. I would be open to it, but I'm not going to do it just because I don't know how to stop,
Right. That's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe in the future do some more coordinated posting. I really enjoyed when I used to go through my like song making production process. I thought that was a fun thing to do and to showcase. So I might try to do some of those once again, just like little instructional videos.
Well, let me not to interrupt, but like it becomes different, right? When you've got people now who are following you, and I don't know what your following's like on TikTok, but people know who you are. There's some segment of the audience there. Seems like some of your original stuff on TikTok was like you were just doing stuff because it was like you were experimenting and trying things out and there was no pressure and no expectation. But it's different when you're like, everything you do or things that you do will be immediately sort of judged or commented on or, shared or whatever more widely. So it changes it, right?
Yeah, it does change it. And I think you have to decide if you're doing things to generate popularity or if you're doing it kind of regardless of that. And both are fine, but you have to pick before you do the thing.
Right.
So,
because they are different. Okay. So now what? What are you doing? Like, are you making more music? When like, this is like about a classic closer on a podcast. Like, we're talking about like crazy shit, like online discourse. And now I'm like, okay, so when's the new album drop or whatever? But no, I am curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, are you working on new music? Are you going to do a new record? Like, what is the future for you? Like, what are you thinking about, working on, excited about?
There's new music and there's about an EP or album's worth that is kind of in my style normally. And then what I really want to do, and I've done this for a couple of them, I think, one or two, is I want to do another really small EP that's just a few like fully orchestral sounding versions of these songs that people would already know. Because I think that's fun. And I did it for Time of My Life, which isn't a secret because I already played the orchestral version on tour. But that one was one that I did way back and it had no words. And it was the backtrack for a like video I made. And then I went back and just used the MIDI and like changed all the sounds and messed with it and tinkered and tinkered and tinkered and made words. And now it's going to be like this insane like string heavy orchestra sound. So I wanted to do that with that song. And then I also want to do it with Gross, which is another song that people only know since I've played it on tour, but it's a very like techie, almost 80s with the strings, but like a very beep boop song. And then I want to do an orchestral version of that sometime. But that's all just about grouping them. The short answer is yes, there will be a new album soon.
Right. Are you touring currently right now, or are you in between stuff?
I'm in between stuff.
But you can go and like, you're playing like shows with like a ton of people there, right? I mean, they're like packed houses. I mean, I've seen some video from it, but you've got fans who are going to come out and like see that, which must be also surreal, I guess, because, you know, it's like you've got online people and then they don't seem real, but they are actually real.
Yeah, I think there were a few milestones like that me and my team were like things where it's like you can't guess how it's going to go until it goes. And one of those was, can she make it through a show live, which had not been attempted before I started doing it. And then it was
interesting.
Yeah. And then it was, will people actually show up in real life, or is this an internet thing? And both of those we were like pleasantly surprised.
I've also been shocked and surprised by the fact that like you can do things on the internet and then go, oh, I'm going to be here, or I'm doing this. And then people will just like show up and there's like human beings who you're like, you're this avatar, but now you're a real person. But I mean, I've seen some videos of, you know, you're playing rooms full of people like singing the lyrics, like singing along with the lyrics of your songs, which is, I mean, kind of incredible no matter who you are. But do you like touring? Do you like that?
I did like that. I do like playing live, which I did not expect to. I thought that it was going to not be my thing because, as you can probably tell, as a producer type yourself, like I very much enjoy the producer angle, and I like to just sit on my little computer and tinker and listen to the same 3 seconds again and again for like 4 consecutive hours until I'm insane. And I did not expect to enjoy the performance aspect, but I did. I thought it was very fun. People have always been very nice. So
I think I've kept you on this long enough. I just want to say, like, I found this conversation to be completely fascinating and so surprising. Like, we went to places that I did not expect, and I still have, frankly, many more questions. So when you are ready, when you really are releasing new music and going out on tour again, like, you have to come back and we have to talk more about not only your music, which I truly do love, but also whether you're back on TikTok, which to me is going to be a very important topic to revisit. So anyhow, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. I will be happy to come back sometime.
In the name of public good, they taught me everything, just like a daddy should. And you were beautiful and vulnerable and power and success. Goddamn, I fell for you. Your flame, the words, your tunnels, and your tech. I studied code because I wanted to do something great like you. And the real tragedy is half of it was true. But we've been fucking mean. We're elitist. We're as flawed as any church. And this faux red West Coast dogma has a higher fucking net worth. I bit the apple because I trusted you. It tastes like Thomas Malthus. Your proposal is immodest and insane. And I hope someday Selmers rides her fucking train.